Hello, future designers and developers. This is going to be a quick tutorial on how to go over relative and absolute positioning. So relative and absolute positioning are ways that we can rearrange items on our web page to get more finer details. We typically don't use it for very large movements. This is more arranging something when they're already in some kind of larger structure, whether it be a div with some center aligning or justification, but this kind of moves things in and out of our natural alignment, and we'll talk about that too. So if we've got this green block right here, it's just a div green, it's got a background color green, and I give it a position property, I can give this absolute. The absolute position takes it out of the natural flow of our website, and it removes it. So now underneath here is actually our blue, and let me prove that to you by taking the opacity of this all the way down to 0, and now we can see that the blue one's there. So we remove something from our web flow by using absolute. It's a very powerful tool, but can also cause a lot of problems down the road if we're not using it properly. So let's give this a position absolute, but then we also, whenever we add in a position absolute or relative and a couple others, we unlock more CSS properties. Those properties are top, bottom, right, and left. So if we were to throw this at a top of 0, you can now see that the green one has moved up just a little bit. It's moved past our border 0, and if we go left 0, we'll place it perfectly in that top corner. So now our 0, 0 of our box lines up with the 0, 0 of our page. That's our parent container for this item, is the entire body of our HTML. So now we can use this to kind of move this element around. If we wanted it to be 400 from the top, and then from the left we throw in, I'm also going to put an actual value, 400 pixels, and then from the left we want to do 200 pixels. We can move this element around and kind of shake it around. It also works from wherever we place this. So if we're saying bottom 0, it's going to move it down to where it's at the very bottom. That 0's a line over there. Same with right. That allows us to put it down in the opposite corner and move it. And again, it's taken out of this position. So let's change this over to, I'm going to leave these blank. Let's change this to a relative position. With relative position, you can still see that it's at that original position, but we still have unlocked these. So we can take this top position, and it is relative to wherever it is at currently. So at 0, 0, if I move it, 30 pixels from the top, it's going to move it down 30 pixels, and it's going to still kind of be, it was where it was in our flow, keeping everything else still in that same place, but now it can overlap and move on top of other elements. So we can also move it to the left. We'll move it to the left another 30 pixels as well. So that allows us to have a relative position to wherever it was placed before. Now, this also gives us some more abilities if we place something else inside of another element. Let me show you what I mean by that. If I give my green a position relative, and then I were to take my blue div, actually I'm going to take the pink div over here, and I am going to place that inside of the green div. I'm also going to make the green div a little bit larger so we can see that better. We'll make that 300 pixels and a height of 300 pixels. Cool. So now that pink div is inside of the green div, and that green div has a position relative. So that means when I go into pink, I can now give this a position of absolute, and it didn't move. It didn't go to that 0, 0 up here. It didn't go out of the element. We are now in relation to whatever parent container, this being our green element, we are in relation to this. So what we could do is we can move it from top, 20 pixels, and it's going to move down inside of our green element. So this is useful for arranging items inside of elements, but we need to make sure that we have that relative positioning so we know where we are making our movements in relation to another part. So that was a quick tutorial just on using some of these relative and absolute positions. They're very helpful for making little movements, but again, do not recommend them for making big changes to our page. All right, thanks for watching.